Hey Josie, tell them what they're watching. Yeah!
Welcome all to Popcorn Culture Podcast for popcorn, soda pop, popular media, and other popping things. We are not sponsored by Poppin' on Main, but in every episode we get 3 popcorn flavors off the current menu, which changes every month, and one of the novelty sodas. If you're a local here in Quincy, be sure to check them out. That is Poppin' on Main. One lesson I learned from the first episode is smaller bags. 3 bags of the small size is still too much popcorn to have to take home after an episode, so we're going with mini, which isn't very much smaller, but sure, it'll be a little better. Oh, let's see what flavors we got today. We got their classic main mix, which I think they always have. It is caramel and cheddar, which is a good call. It's very wise. As I said last week, they're sweet flavors and savory flavors, both incredibly intense. You gotta have both, or you'll get overwhelmed. So,
And I promise we're not going to start a whole discussion over who says caramel or caramel. Gotta
no,
avoid
no.
that.
I've been
In
yelling.
fact, you didn't even have to bring it up.
I know someone's thinking.
Yeah, okay. And we got
Somebody is always thinking.
yeah, and we got birthday cake, which I thought was appropriate as it was AJ's birthday yesterday. Yeah. And we got barbecue cheddar, which just seemed interesting. Okay. Okay, start distributing. And this week we got the orange soda.
From Frosties.
It seems, yes. I don't know where they get these brands. It's just they've got novelty sodas, as they say. And
Thank you very much.
okay, we're gonna have to make an opening them debacle again. I'll get onto the. Let's pop the visual aids up, shall we? Okay. This week, we went to the theater to see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel to the game-changing Sony animated film Into the Spider-Verse. 3 directors replaced the first film's 3 directors. We have Joaquim dos Santos, director of many episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender and a number of small DC Comics-based animated features. Kemp Powers, the co-director of Pixar's Soul, and Justin K. Thompson, a production designer on many Sony animated films, including the first Spider-Verse film, making his directorial debut. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, the duo behind Clone High and the Lego Movie, return as writers and producers. Cast members returning from the first film include Shamik Moore as Miles Morales, Haley Steinfeld as Gwen Stacy, Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, Brian Tyree Henry as the guy who was named Jefferson Davis in the first film, but is apparently now Jefferson Morales. He took his wife's name, but waited until a couple decades into the marriage, I guess. I don't know.
Wise idea.
Yeah, okay. Luna Lauren Velez as Rio Morales, Mahershala Ali as Aaron Davis, and from the first film's end credits stinger, Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. And we meet a few exciting new characters, including but not limited to Issa Rae as Jessica Drew, Daniel Kaluuya as Spider-Punk, Karan Soni as Spider-Man India, Amanda Stenberg as Spider-Bite, Andy Samberg as Scarlet Spider, and Jason Schwartzman as The Spot.
Nice spot, but he was very good.
Yeah, I
In
love
his role.
The Spot, yeah.
Honestly, phenomenal cast.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Lineup alone should tell you good things about
Yeah.
it.
Really, like just amazing cast too, and also the little spots of like random celebrities in the cast as well.
Well, and amazingly, so many of the members of this cast are also either Oscar winners or Oscar nominees.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's saying something in terms of the level of how much talent they went into finding this cast specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes an animated film has a lot of celebrities in it and it's super gratuitous, but sometimes it just feels right, like it's the blood of the film.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
Oh yeah.
What do we want to start off with?
And
The original.
I'll take the original main mix, yeah. I'll just
I'll take that.
the one of each. And,
Little double.
no, I mean going in on the visual style that the first film pioneered, which has been
Good choice.
you know, imitated, replicated a few times. I don't know. My autistic ass that worships the Disney Renaissance, I don't care for it. I don't know. It's just it's just something I've always had. I'm sure it's just a me thing. It's just when
Yeah.
animation is super stylized or cartoonish, I can't connect. I can only connect when the characters really feel dimensional physically. And I mean, I will say the character designs in this movie are quite grounded, but yeah, just the super stylized look of the animation medium, not for me. I don't know.
No?
I don't like it when animation tries stuff. I'm sad to say. Sad to say, I just don't. That's I mean, and that's a me thing. If you don't like it, go to anybody else who's ever talked about this movie because everybody else seems to like it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm anybody else,
Okay.
and I'm going to talk about it.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm on anybody else as well.
So
Yeah.
I can understand exactly what you're saying. Sometimes stylization just plain does not work.
Mhm.
There have been examples where it's great, and some examples where it's not so great.
Yeah.
For example, I've never really connected with the works of Ralph Bakshi for that very reason.
Oh my God.
His animation is very stylized. I think it's good. I've just never really connected with his work on that
Okay.
level.
Right.
That
That's good.
said, what I loved about the first Spider-Verse film, and by extension this one, is it came out at a time when everybody was trying to be 3D
Mm.
Disney / Pixar or 3D DreamWorks.
Yeah.
The market has become so oversaturated recently, and yes, I'm getting on my soapbox. I want a 2D classic animated Disney film. We are past due, and if they're screaming that 2D animated films don't make money, it's because you don't make them anymore.
Yeah, they tried that, but they couldn't beat Avatar and the last Harry Potter film.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
no wonder you didn't make
Oh
bank.
God,
Jeez.
Princess and the Frog made more than its budget back, but we didn't make 70 billion, so it must have sucked. No, that's not the problem.
You didn't make as much as the other people.
Again, I actually think Rebel Taxi's theory about how TV tie-in movies really killed 2D animation, I think it says something, but at the same time, we are, what, 14, 15 years removed since, I want to say it was the Winnie the Pooh movie.
Yeah, that was the last
That
2D
Disney
animation.
attempted a 2D
The
animated
second
film.
and final attempt at bringing 2D back. Yeah.
Yes, and as a result, I make it a habit as much as I can to try and support any 2D animated film I can. I saw Bob's Burgers, the movie, last year in a theater by myself and with my mom, simply because we love Bob's Burgers and we wanted to try and support a 2D animated film.
yeah.
And that was the only one that was released here in Quincy.
Yeah, and there's
So-
it's I was it's been what 21, 22 years since Shrek, and animated films never stopped trying to be Shrek. And it's trends are supposed to die earlier than that. It's some call it the 3 Cs: computer generated, celebrity voiced, cultural references.
And while I don't feel that every film is committed that said, when a movie like Spider-Verse, which is 3D animated, is stylized enough to the point that I forget I'm watching a 3D CG film, I love it. I get stylization isn't for everyone, but this was one of the first 3D animated films, besides the stuff made by Leica Pictures, that looked different.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I appreciated. And that's why I think so many people connected with it, because it really did remind them of being a kid and reading Spider-Man comics.
Oh yeah. Well, just because how some of the characters in there looked kind of like paper comics.
That's what they were going for.
Yeah,
They
that's
really
what
think
they're going for. They had all the Kirby dots. They wanted to look like an old comic book, and I'm like,
I think they really succeeded with that style. And this one, I really did enjoy it. There were a few moments we'll get to that it seemed like it kind of clashed at a few points, but at the same time, I do appreciate the stylization just because I like it when I see something different. And that's part of the reason why the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Sage, I know you say you don't like it, but I like the fact that it at least doesn't look like every other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie I've seen.
Yeah.
So
I'll give you that.
if you want your animated films to look different, make them 2D again.
yes, but until then, I will take what I can get.
Honestly, because the ones that the two ones that kind of get on my nerves a little bit most is because I like the Spider-Verse first one and the second one because they're pretty much the first ones to bring that stylization here and then expel on it on the second movie. And then with everybody
Expand.
expand.
You said expand.
I did
You mean
expand.
expand?
Expand. Sorry, I need to expand
I'm
my
a dick
vocab.
this episode.
No, you're good. Hey, I'd rather be like corrected correctly so that I could correct myself later. Too many corrections. But that everybody afterwards, it kind of is like falling behind, like with Puss in Boots, the new one. I haven't seen that one yet, but it is stylized in that kind of same form.
Yeah, I see. I like that because it takes place in the Shrek universe, which since it started 20 years ago is not super stylized. So the returning characters still have their
Yeah.
old character design, and all the new ones it's hard for me to connect to because they've got the new design. But I mean, yeah, I felt it worked in Puss in Boots, but then you got like the Mitchells versus the Machines by the same writers of this film, similarly stylized, and yeah, it had this really in-depth character writing, and I couldn't connect because they look silly. I don't know.
I
It's
want to
just
get your opinion then. While we were in the theater watching the trailers, they showed that Ruby Gillman movie. What do you think of the animation in that then?
I think I don't know. I mean, the mermaid girl looks just Disney-esque enough that I can connect, and
Yeah.
and honestly, the Kraken character design is
Oh,
is okay.
that
I
one,
could
okay.
I could
But
connect to that too.
See, I
Yeah,
was
I
curious
would.
because those characters have a very
Dude with the big nose, not so much.
But I was
Yeah,
curious
I can't
because again, those
can't rock with
characters
that.
have like a very they kind of remind me of like a 3D Fleischer Brothers animation in terms of
Yeah.
having really stringy,
Gangly,
squishy
yeah.
limbs and proportions.
Yeah, it's true.
I was kind of curious what you
Overly.
thought of that.
I mean, it works on the Kraken characters. Did the humans have that too? I didn't notice.
I
Maybe a
wasn't
little bit,
Yeah.
almost like what? I can't remember the one that they just had. Lucas.
Luca.
Luca.
Okay.
That's kind of like the same stylized form of it, but I
Mhm.
think the Kraken movie goes beyond that. Like it's like you said, softer. They all look squishy. I think some of the human characters do look squishy, but the mermaids and the Kraken character definitely do.
Yeah, I would say I'm gonna say I mean I'm not okay. You'll never catch me saying like CalArt style because one it was John Kay who coined that term, and he sucks. And
Yes.
B, he was talking about the Disney Renaissance art style. Disney animators go to CalArts. It makes absolutely no sense that people co-opted it to talk about Beanmouth art style. But that's derogatory. But I don't know how else to describe it. And I like Steven Universe. I like it in his writing. It's just no. I don't know. I don't.
I
I
just
know, like you got these scenes in animated shows where like they bring in James Baxter to guest animate, and I'm like, why? It still doesn't look good. The characters are so flat, and it didn't need him.
yeah, but at the same time, I've always heard this expression from so many people, but it bears repeating, especially in this day and age. Good writing can always save a film if its
Absolutely.
animation is not 100%.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
Thankfully, this movie is one of those that has phenomenal writing.
Yeah.
So
And-
even if the animation isn't for everybody, one, still better than anything I could do.
Yeah, I
And
will
two,
say, yeah.
great script.
I'm gonna say, character design is good, and writing, of course, is phenomenal. It's just all the comic booky touches I just found distract from the story. Is all.
Yeah.
Good writing. I do find bad animation. I mean, and not bad, but just I don't know. Animation I can't connect with does disconnect me from the story sometimes. I mean, hey, I try. I
get it.
like stories.
I have-
I'm here for stories.
I have to put this out there that you said that there was a lot going on, and I kind of agree with you that I feel like there was almost too much going on during the movie, that everything kind of took away from everything. Because like you're paying attention to the Easter eggs, you're looking at all the spider suits, you're looking at all the cool animation, you're paying attention to the story, you're paying attention to all these characters, and then like you're not getting the whole effect. It's just
That-
too much.
I like
Yeah.
that is true. That's kind of a perennial problem with when one movie is really good and so they make two sequels, right? Then you got one movie and then basically a duology that's a big clusterfuck because they kind of
yeah.
made it quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, what
I mean, this
I'm
movie,
thinking Pirates of the Caribbean when I say that.
yeah,
Duology. Duology that they hadn't even finished filming when they released it, basically.
I was about to say, thankfully, this one, they had 4 years to come up with this
Mhm.
particular film.
Yeah. It helps, yeah. Animation takes longer, so you've got if you've done something wrong, you got a lot of time to
Time to
say,
fix
so,
it.
hey, are we sure we're gonna do this? Do we sure want that in there?
Yeah, but like you said, we have to wait and see where this goes from here.
No, I have all faith that the conclusion is going to be spectacular.
I was about to
have
say, I have a
absolute faith in that.
I have a lot of faith too, because I mean they were intending to write a
Mhm,
sequel to this
mhm.
one. They absolutely knew they were going to continue this story. Again, I really enjoyed this story.
Mhm.
One of the things that I thought felt so grounded is that the first film is an origin story about Miles Morales
Yeah.
essentially going through a one long training montage of other Spider Men from across the Spider Verse, training him up to, take on the threat. What I liked with this one is we got to see Miles Morales being Spider Man, and obviously that means life kicking him in the face.
Oh,
A lot.
he got kicked
Yeah,
so
that-
hard. So
it's-
much time.
Basically, this film basically says it outright. Spider-Man being miserable is canon.
Yeah.
They say it outright. pretty much.
Literally.
And unless you're one particular Spider-Man with really wonderful hair.
And rippling muscles.
Mumbai Hatton, I think, is
Oh, yeah, man.
what they said. Unless you're that one Spider-Man, life sucks for you.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about this.
Well, hey, hey, Miles made life. Life was about to not suck for him, but and that was going to be canon. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's
think I think it was Mumbattan.
Moon,
Mumbattan, yeah, or
the-
Mumbai Hatton. I don't know.
The combination of Mumbai and
Manhattan.
Yeah. Not unlike San Francisco. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize.
Yeah, it's a novel idea. Yeah.
yeah.
I loved how when as he's falling through it, you like look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, look, he's about to fall in the ocean, and then he just keeps falling through all the like levels of skyscrapers, and all the
Yeah.
buildings are like miles high up into the atmosphere. And
Yeah.
it's just he
Yeah.
just keeps falling and falling and falling.
Unlike San Francisco, which is where San Francisco is, Mumbattan is where Mumbai is, I suppose. Yeah.
And
I
Manhattan.
know. I'm not
Okay.
familiar with that version of Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so-
neither am I, but I mean he's called Spider-Man India, so so Mumbattan is in some version of India where Mumbai got really fucking big.
Yeah.
What I love about him the most is, besides his attitude, is the character or the actor who played him, because I don't remember his name fully, but he was the driver in Deadpool. He was the Yeah.
I love that guy.
yeah. And so like when you had him in there, it's like this is kind of like his extra like what is it? The word I lost the word. Ascension a bit, but yeah, it's more like kind of like riding on the high horse for a bit. Because this like was one of the coolest roles I liked him in, besides the Deadpool movie, because he did great in that too, both of them. And he voiced the character super well. Like I said, his attitude in that character they played the part perfectly with him, and the way his character like portrays Indian culture and like how his style is, it's just one of the best things ever.
Yep.
It's like, and the color is crazy, which I liked. I love color.
Yeah. But we were talking about all the references and all the things that got thrown in there.
Mhm.
That was one thing I was starting to notice, though, is we got more and more and more and more and more. They pop up little text blurbs to tell you what they were.
No,
Those things did not stick around long enough for me to
No.
even read them.
no.
No, I mean I think that's I think that's
Mm.
part of the joke. It's that it's a lot of stuff, but they're only giving us as much as they need to tell the story.
And
I think, bloating us with spider people, they didn't do.
Yeah, no, I get that. But the problem is, when you're trying
Reading
to
everything.
bring it all in, the next thing you know is you're spending the next 2 minutes thinking, damn it, what the hell was that?
Oh, yeah.
That's it's still they can't tell you what everything was. They still
I
got to
know.
tell a story.
I know.
There wouldn't be much of a movie if they just showed us exactly who every one of those
Yeah.
spider people was.
Well, yeah,
Unless your
especially-
name is Donald Glover, then you get like 5 whole minutes.
Oh, yeah, besides the
a few seconds.
Yeah.
And they gave a few seconds to some, and others remained in the background, and yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
them in the background, but no, there was one
It's
scene.
like I saw
particular-
Peter parked car. I did
Yeah,
not see
well,
the
yeah,
captions
yeah,
on the people who were driving in him. I
It
didn't.
had
I
captions,
still don't
but-
know. Yeah.
It had captions, but like you said, it wasn't fast enough to read it. But also that takes away from the story because you're trying to focus on reading that real quick while listening in. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
who were those?
Let's just say when this gets home video released, I'm probably going to need 5 days to watch it because I'm gonna pause constantly.
yeah.
Like, what's that? What's that? What's that?
Well, right after we watched that, I took him home. I went home and I watched like 3 breakdowns of the movie. Two of them, and then one about like all the Easter eggs in the movie plus the suits.
Yeah.
I myself avoided doing that because I wanted to go in fresh with just my opinion, but we got different styles here.
Exactly.
I like that. We're developing as a show.
Exactly. Different varieties.
Yeah, and hey,
All points of view.
and hey, speaking of our styles, I want to rewind to something that got stuck in my head and I didn't have a chance to get a word in for one. So yeah, rewind. Mason talked about a theory that I really like that I think just merits a bit of explanation. He just mentioned it offhand. Theory goes, the Rugrats movie was very successful and been very good, and so what happened was all the studios, they made theatrical films out of all the TV cartoons at the time. And it got people thinking whenever they saw 2D animation that it was going to be something cheap and lackluster with the same characters they can see at home. But if they saw CGI, they knew it was something new. And that's how a lot of traditional animated films flopped back then, and CG films soared. And that's how traditional animation died.
Yep.
I mean, heck, even it's just like, there's a lot of TV animation, a lot of 2D animation that we do get. I wouldn't call it traditional animation because you got characters standing at a 3-quarter angle, just moving their mouths and their eyes a little bit.
But I want to give credit to Rebel Taxi. That's the video I saw that made me, go, oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And I've since shared the video with
Yes, I saw
Sage,
it,
and I've shared it with you, but I don't know if you ever saw it.
I don't think so.
But I really credit Rebel Taxi's theory because I think it makes a lot of sense. So shout out, credit where credit is due. Rebel Taxi's video on how Rugrats killed 2D animation. I didn't really keep in mind when the Rugrats movie came out, I was 8, I think. I wasn't paying attention to box office or critic reception. They had Rugrats toys at Burger King. We bought the soundtrack and listened to it on our way to Florida, and we saw the movie. I was a shameless consumer of Rugrats media as a child, and I inadvertently caused the death of 2D animation. I'm sorry, folks.
Yeah, I was a little younger than you, but I remember seeing that movie. I remember the toys. It's like,
I remember liking it.
Oh, everything.
And I was amazed when I look back on it how stacked their soundtrack was with talent.
we're all 30 now. That sucks so bad.
Well, I'm here to tell you, I'm gonna make 30 the new 20. That's my new motto as a fresh 30-year-old.
Yeah, no, hey, I'm with y'all there. That was no. It's like I'm 30 and I'm just finally starting to feel a little bit independent. And what helped a lot the whole year I was 29, people kept being shocked that I wasn't in my teens. So I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I am ready to be 20. Yeah, there you go.
Coming in there fresh like a daisy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay this young forever, like until you hit like 80, and then everything will turn into a razor.
Yeah, 80 is still 80, unfortunately.
I think I'm just gonna do
medical science. 80 is.
I think I'm just gonna do the Dorian Gray approach. I'm gonna get a portrait of me that'll hang in my attic and age for me, and I'll stay the same age forever.
No, I got one of those. It looks 30. It's gruesome.
It's gruesome. It's terrible. It's got acne and everything. Sores. Looks tired all the time.
All right, but so getting back to this film particularly, one thing I did notice that was a little jarring to me though was in Gwen Stacy's world, which I really, really enjoyed Spider-Gwen. I only knew that they made the character of Spider-Gwen like couple of years before the first Spider-Verse film, but I didn't give it much thought.
Yeah.
To me, she was always the blonde Peter Parker girlfriend who died.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I really knew about her. I knew her from the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series. Awesome show, by the way. Check it out.
I have to see that. Yeah.
Yes, I highly recommend it. And I liked her in that one, but that show ended after 2 seasons. You know, we didn't get much with her after
like
that.
they do.
Well,
Yeah.
thank Disney buying Marvel for destroying that show. But
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
not getting off that. What the point? My point is, in most scenarios, Gwen Stacy, when she shows up in a movie like the Andrew Garfield ones, she exists to die and motivate Peter forward. I liked the
can't-
fact that
Hey, you, Gwen Stacy.
yeah, I like the fact that with this new one, they really gave her a chance to be, well, for lack of a better word, the main character. And
Yeah.
while she was a supporting character in the first Spider-Verse, in this one, I liked the fact that we got to see a little more development out of her specifically. That said, I found the art style in her world, particularly in her dad's apartment, very distracting.
Yeah.
All the pastels. And,
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's another thing I was gonna say. It's when film gets so non-literal, that's what drags me
Yeah.
out of it. And yeah, Gwen's world seems to be constantly melting.
Yeah.
Like, what are we looking at?
But
Yeah.
specifically in her apartment,
Mhm.
it's like goes from having detail to having absolutely nothing, and then she suits up and goes to the museum to stop the vulture, and suddenly there's detail again.
yeah. Like amazing detail.
Also, is it just me, or did anyone else wonder? Does their apartment literally just have one bedroom and it's hers?
Yeah, because whenever
Because it looked like her bedroom and then the living room and the door out with a small kitchenette. It didn't look like there was anything else in that apartment.
Probably was another bedroom. Probably just wasn't paying attention.
Not
though.
good at sussing out scenery.
Yeah.
I
It just
didn't-
from how the angles, it did look like it was just her. Because you see the dad, all he slept was on the couch in front of the TV. So
Yeah.
he's
Sleeping on the couch.
I mean,
Hey, you know,
I
things can be tough
I
sometimes.
realize real estate in Manhattan is like super crazy expensive, but you still figure you can at least get a bathroom in it or something.
I mean, she at least has to have a window so she can, escape through it, like all spider people can.
Yep.
Possibly. But I just thought it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just that was just one thing that I was kind of nagging about, just because in those scenes are supposed to be incredibly emotional, specifically. And so we spend a lot of time focusing on these characters talking to each other.
Yeah.
And when there's not a lot of kinetic action, that's when my eyes looking at the set going,
Yeah.
what's that there? Why is that there? Why is that placed on the table?
Remember that.
Thinking, will any of this be important later?
I know. But
Guy's birthday cake flavor is really good. Do you have any? Are you still on a diet? Have you, I didn't. I haven't seen you eat any yet.
No, I
Probably
just
don't like
haven't
big
gotten
ones.
around to it because I'm talking so much.
There you go.
hey, this stuff's the bomb. Birthday cake, popping on Main.
Yep, good stuff. Yeah,
Good stuff.
it might not be there next month, but I mean, there are a finite amount of flavors. It'll come back if it's
Yeah.
not there next month.
But no, that was the whole kind of thing with each universe of like Miles' universe was more comic booky, kind of bold colors, bold line, but
Yeah.
still kind of
Like, yeah, each one does have to have its own art style because like it's from a different comic book, and that I can appreciate.
Yeah. which it all worked all well together.
Yeah, it's like we get to see Penny Parker from the first film, and since she's in the hub world where everyone's in their own art style, we see her full anime briefly, and it's quite nice.
Yep. Would have liked to have seen more of some of those returning characters personally, but
Yeah, it was,
I mean, I get it.
I miss Noir,
yeah,
especially since it was Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
yeah, they're coming. They're coming. They're
Coming back.
They're in the.
Gwen's
Yeah,
back.
I'm not okay. Yeah, we don't do. Okay, well, yeah, we don't do spoilers until after a certain set of time. But yeah, I mean, yeah, let's just say we know from this film that the third one will feature Penny and Noir and Spider-Ham again.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like they're not there. They are there. They're just not really involved in the plot in this one.
Yeah,
But-
but yeah, and but yeah, no, Noir and Spider-Ham aren't there in the present day. I don't think they're in the organization.
I thought I
But
saw
Penny
them,
is.
but I could be wrong.
I'm
Well,
quite sure they're not. I'm pretty sure we only saw them when Miles or Gwen was having some flashbacks.
Maybe
No,
that's what I was
think
thinking.
seen
Just Penny in the organization.
The girl with the spider mech.
That's Penny.
Oh, okay, Penny.
Yeah.
That's where we seen because I seen the spider mech twice.
But no, I'm just saying when he first got
I'm trying to remember when. I don't know.
the You know, the
Yes,
actual-
yeah, like
Yeah,
when
that
she's in the
hub.
hub with all the other spider people, yeah, she's there briefly and she talks to him just for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again,
Absolutely.
when he first showed up, I could have sworn I saw one of them walking
Else.
around in the back. But I could be wrong.
You could be right. Yeah, I feel like
There's so many
yeah, I feel like if they were in the organization, we would have seen them more prominently. I think just
Mhm.
Gwen went to find them when she realized there was going to be a sequel, and she wanted to get the old crew back together
Sure.
as well. Yeah.
But again, I could have sworn I saw at least Noir in the background, but it's possible it may have been a very similar Spider-Man with a noir,
Noir like
a
esque
noir
look.
like background. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, there's so many details I want to
Yeah.
go back and watch.
I'm not totally confident in my end either. We'll have to see it again. There's a lot going on in this film.
Oh yeah.
Which back to kind of the story of I love how they had Miles in it because we've been talking about Spider-Man so much. Like we need to talk about Miles a bit. I love Miles as the new Spider-Man character,
Mhm.
or just him himself in general, because he really kind of portrays like the high school lifestyle of it, like the story. He makes his own destiny. Like that's kind of like
Yeah.
the theme of this whole the show was talked about.
It's how damn hard it must be to lead that double life, especially as a
Mhm.
teenager. Like it's
Keeping it
yeah, you know,
transparent.
it's yeah, and when it happens in a movie, I can just kind of run with it. It's like especially when it's a series and the main character is living this secret life and constantly lying to the people around them. I'm like, God, that must suck
Yeah.
so much
Mhm.
to have to do that all the time. And yeah, this film goes into a bit, around just the beginning parts about just how being a secret hero like that just completely trashes your social and academic life.
Well, the thing I found really dynamic about Miles, at least in this version, is okay. I'm gonna go ahead and give a spoiler alert for the Insomniac Spider-Man game.
Oh yeah.
So Miles Morales is a character in that, and in one of the earlier missions, you meet Officer Jefferson Davis, when the writing staff thought that was a good idea for that. And anyway, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
You meet Officer Jefferson Davis. He alludes to his son. He helps Spider-Man at a point, and then he is tragically killed off. And around that time, Peter meets Miles and Rio through the
Yeah.
tragedy. He feels guilty about what happened to his dad, and they become friends. And that's great. That's awesome. That's wonderful. They're building Miles up and all that. But what I found interesting in this movie, well, this is the first time I can think of in a while where someone has been active as Spider-Man for a while, and both of his parents are still alive.
Mhm.
The idea that Miles actually has a very stable home, a very
Lifestyle,
loving
yeah.
family.
Yeah,
That's
therefore-
true. Yeah.
You know, Miles, okay, it's New York, it's exceptionally expensive to live in
Oh,
New
yeah.
York.
Anywhere they're at.
But what is interesting is one of the cruxes of Peter Parker's story is his uncle is dead.
Mhm.
His aunt's not great with money,
Mhm.
and with his uncle dead, they're struggling to get by. That's why Peter starts taking pictures of Spider-Man
Yeah,
to sell for money. He was always financially in dire straits. He's emotionally destroyed and
Mhm.
all this stuff. So it's really, really interesting to think that, and again, if it goes without saying, spoilers for the first movie, the closest thing in terms of personal tragedy that Miles has had up to this point is the death of his uncle, who was a supervillain,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
less. So while that did shape him, at the same time, Miles has a lot of things going for him that a lot of other Spider-Men don't, which
Oh yeah.
it was just kind of interesting to see that dynamic play out, and the fact that his parents are working as a very cohesive group, and they're funny without being stupid.
Oh,
That's the
mhm.
thing I love. Yes, they come
If-
across as clueless, but that's because they don't know their son is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But they do have a good like chemistry with each other, where they do flow with each other. Especially how she's I think she's Cuban.
Puerto Rican.
Puerto Rican.
Rican.
Sorry, forgive me.
Yeah.
And he's just straight from Brooklyn, I believe.
But-
But the flow between the two is just great. I love it.
Another thing I absolutely love is the recurring gag of how they hate when Spider-Man's friends call them by their first names.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got
People call him Rio, and yeah.
Jeff
Right.
is like, don't love that.
Don't care for that.
That was actually a nuance that, as a parent, I could see some parents getting really annoyed by their friends when
Oh,
they call them that.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was actually something I really enjoyed. I love the fact that we got so much personality out
Oh,
of
yeah.
Miles's parents, because it makes you feel for him that much more, that you want to see him just have this happy family, this good life for him.
Oh yeah, well, more to lose too.
And sadly, as Spider-Man, you know that's probably not going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's what this whole movie's about. The canon of Spider-Man.
Yep.
Yep.
It's Eddie. So there is. I know. I think there was some promotion around this film and presumably the Insomniac Miles game as well. People. I don't know. There's some. I don't know how big it is. It's probably just some ass wipes on Twitter saying, "Yeah, you can't call Miles Spider-Man." Well, of course, Miles is Spider-Man, and it's it's. I think one thing that Stan Lee noticed when the character was just coming along, that he didn't intend when he and Kirby were working on it, but the thing about Spider-Man is the suit covers every inch of his body. It could be anybody under there, and that is why Spider-Man has always really strongly resonated with the Black community in general, because Spider-Man, he's from New York, and when the Amazing films were being made, people wanted Donald Glover to be Peter Parker because at this point a guy from Queens is way more likely to be black than white, and that didn't work out. But I mean, I believe, was Miles created that recently? Like, is that what led to the creation of the Miles character?
I want to say 2009-ish,
Okay,
sometime around
so-
the turn of the decade.
So it's okay. So before the Amazing series, but
In 2009, the Amazing series was probably a decent bit into pre-production in terms
Yeah.
of writing and screenplay. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but what you said about the idea of Spider-Man being covered head to toe,
Yeah, it's
that was one of the best scenes in No Way Home between Electro and one of the Spider-Men.
Yeah, it's just that's
You
what
know?
that's what he assumed. That's what he hopes is out there in the vastness of the multiverse.
I don't know if this helps, but this talks about the first appearance of Miles.
In
But this-
in Ultimate Comics Fallout 4 in 2011, that is what I meant. The
Okay.
creation of the Miles Morales
Okay,
character.
so I was off by a couple of years.
So
but,
okay, yeah, 2011 1 year before Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For me, I followed the Ultimate canon somewhat loosely because I don't know, it just kind of reminded me of the Sam Raimi films in a way.
Yeah, I had
And-
I once rented a big Ultimate Spider-Man collection from the library, and I thought, yeah, it's kind of nice, reboot. It's very kind of it tries a little too hard to be contemporary, I felt, but I thought it was good.
Well,
That's what I read.
I mean, as a teenager, I like that.
Mhm.
But that said, the thing that was just jarring about Miles' introduction for me is that it came right after spoiler alert for a 10-year-old comic series, but it came right after they killed Peter Parker off.
Yeah, I don't
And
know
it-
why comics
it-
keep
it-
doing that. Everyone
it-
knows it's not going to
but
stick, and it's
it-
just
it-
cheap promotion. Yeah.
Well, I think in the Ultimate series, I think it did, but
Yeah.
the thing is, it feels like right after Peter Parker's body is gone stiff, boom, new Spider-Man. And for me, it's like, I don't want to read this right now just because Peter Parker just died,
Yeah.
and now I have to watch new Spider-Man.
Now there's another one right behind it.
And it had absolutely nothing to do with anything with Miles's race or anything. In fact, Miles has come to be one of my favorite Marvel characters. It was just, I think the way they introduced him in the comics, personally to me, was just a little hasty about Peter's dead. Here's a new one.
Yeah,
You know?
I could see that. That just sounds like comics to me. But I mean, hey, from what
Yeah.
I understand, Miles did
But-
become a beloved character.
I love him.
Not just because the Black readers know he really does look like them under there, but just because being a genuinely well-written character,
I
and
mean-
that's important component number 2 with representation. I would say do it good, right?
Well, what I love, I mean, let's face it, Miles Morales has the better powers too.
Oh,
Yeah, it's got yeah. So like the
Electric
electricity and the invisibility, that's always been
Yeah.
part of the character. That's pretty swell. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
Spider-Man's never had that.
yeah, exactly.
It's not very spidery,
and It's
No.
awesome, but again, see the thing I really liked, and again, I'm gonna get on my soapbox about how much I love the Insomniac games. I really liked how they introduced Miles Morales. Peter's been Spider-Man for years, and he meets Miles Morales as this kid who he wants to help in wake of tragedy since he lost his uncle, takes him under his wing, and just gets to know him as a person.
I suppose since
And then he gets his powers at the end of the game, and then
Mhm.
he gets his own game where Peter has gone off to do something. I don't remember
I
exactly
suppose
what.
since
And you
Miles
get to
is
see Miles spread out as his own
I
person.
suppose since Miles's code name is just Spider-Man, he can't really coexist with Peter much, can he?
Well, in the Insomniac games, he does, and you know what? I don't
Well,
mind it.
well, then you said Peter's going somewhere, right? So they're not.
He comes back.
Okay.
In-
Well, yeah,
in
I'm
the-
glad. Yeah,
In the Spider-Man 2 Insomniac game that's coming out later this year, you can play as both of them. They are working in tandem to stop
What?
Venom.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah, and I was talking earlier about Stan Lee. Like, Stan Lee has gone so far as to say Peter Parker should be a straight white guy. Spider-Man can be anybody, and I mean, hey, if we're gonna, you don't have to be on the same wavelength as Stan. Dude was 95. It's, but I appreciate what he was getting at there.
Mm.
Um, and it's like, no, I mean, hey, if somebody were to undo Stan's decision and Peter Parker was black, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I get what the old guy was saying is all. Yeah.
Again, what I love is that Miles Morales is just one of those characters that you just want to see win. You
Oh, yeah.
want to root for him
The whole time.
because he's like Peter Parker.
Yeah,
Peter Parker was the nerd his whole life, and now that he's been given this responsibility, you just want to see that this nerd who's been beaten down by life so long, you want to see him
Yeah.
fight the odds and win.
He is
And
unfortunate.
Miles,
He is you, and he's been given this great responsibility.
and now Miles is exactly that kind of thing. And I mean, I give props because it's so easy for that formula to become, boring.
No, yeah.
But not with Miles. And again, I think that's because they've done so much just to make him a compelling character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the crux of this entire movie franchise is.
Well,
Even though it's got all the insane multiverse stuff going on, Miles to me is always coming off as one of the most interesting characters on screen.
we just
That's absolutely true. Yeah,
Oh,
and that is good. Yeah, I mean, you want even. Yeah, I think people can sometimes. I think we talked about that last week in Speed Racers. Sometimes the protagonist is just a little too vanilla for you.
Yeah.
But Miles, he's sweet chocolate, baby. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That is a terrible saying.
I don't know what's gotten into me today. But
But no, just
I'm a sweet guy, really. I don't know what I don't know what's into
He
me
is.
today.
He is.
But but Miles is some. If you can get a protagonist who is the everyman, but still always the most interesting person in the room, that's hard to do.
Mhm.
Miles nails it every time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we just found out his first appearance was 2011. He feels like a character who's been here a lot longer. Than
Exactly. Yeah, I was
Again.
shocked when I realized he was created as a response to the Amazing
Spider-Man,
series.
yeah.
That was shocking. It really feels like he's he is part of the lifeblood of Marvel.
Yep. Well, and again, going back to some of the things in this film, I love the fact that even though he's been Spider-Man for a year, he's confident in his neighborhood, his abilities, and who he is as a person. He still has those, again, teenage issues that make
Mhm.
you feel for him, showing, hey, he is still a kid. I loved the cake joke.
Oh,
The
yeah.
cake joke.
That's
I'm
nice,
not proud.
What are the odds?
Yeah, I love the cake joke. But what I loved is the fact that, he's very clearly infatuated with Gwen Stacy. And I mean, I get it. Gwen is awesome. But what I loved is the fact that, even though there's a whole multiverse of Spider-Man out there,
Mhm.
all in various different forms and concepts and all this, he's still a teenager who's insecure when a cooler punk rock Spider-Man
Yeah.
shows up that Gwen might be more interested in.
Also,
That's awesome.
Can we talk about Hobie for a little bit?
Yes, let's
You're
talk
still on
about
that?
Hobie.
Hey, if as implied Gwen was shacking up with Hobie,
shacking.
I get it. I will, that's another me thing that, yes, I have been waiting all episode to talk about. It's another me thing. It's like, hey, I am a straight man. I wish I was something more interesting. I'm just not. That's the way it is. But Black Englishmen get me every time. Ever since Adewale Akinwumi Agbaje was on Lost, and I was like, whoa. And Idris Elba needs no introduction. Yeah,
everybody knows
that you get me your Chiwetel Ejiofor, your David Oyelowo, your Daniel Kaluuya, who voices Hobie. John Boyega is okay, I guess. But
Yeah.
so yeah, there's something about even when they're not playing British, it just somehow works for me.
But what I really liked
You know,
about
I wouldn't go with them. I am straight, but I like to look and watch and listen. And...
Settle down.
Okay.
Yeah,
we're
bring
supposed to
you
be
down.
a movie podcast, so let's talk about a
They were in.
movie.
I'm talking about guys who are in movies.
Okay. Well, anyway, I really enjoyed the character of Hobie because I knew like close to nothing about him.
No, absolutely nothing.
But what I did love about him is the fact that he's essentially created as this idea of what makes the coolest Spider-Man.
Oh,
He
dude.
plays in a band. He doesn't give a crap.
He
He's
doesn't.
awesome.
He's
Anarchy.
He's essentially
Anarchy.
anarchy.
Yeah.
He doesn't do humor.
I love it, yeah. And
But
somehow all of his hair fits underneath the mask.
yes,
So much hair. Yeah, I remember being a little weirded
Big,
out about
big
how
dreads.
Andrew Garfield's hairdo fit under the Spider-Man mask, and then here's Hobie.
but with that one specifically, what I love is the fact that, I mean, you know, you're both Spider-Man. You're both Spider-Man in your own universe. You both do amazing things. You both do
Mhm.
crap normal people can't think of. But the idea that Gwen might like this guy better to make Miles
Kind of
question himself.
Jealous.
That's something we've all kind of felt at
Oh,
one
yeah.
time or another, where we compare ourselves unfavorably to someone who looks like they've got everything going on. And again, that's just another example where I can't help but love who Miles Morales
Oh
is.
yeah.
'Cause-
He developed so much in this movie. Not
Yeah,
from like
but
the last
again,
one, but it seems so much in this one.
compared to the first one, where, you know, he just got the powers of one of those
Yeah.
things where it's like, oh, I'll never be as good as you.
Yeah, it's Peter
You know,
Parker.
in this one, you know, you are good. You are
Mhm.
just as good as a lot of these Spider-Men.
Mhm.
And yet there's still this one guy that makes you question yourself because the girl you like might like him better, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing makes you feel more powerless than the idea that someone you like may like someone better,
Oh yeah.
and you really can't do anything to stop that.
No, because everybody's got their own.
Because
feelings about things.
everyone has felt that way
Oh, yeah.
in some regard, in some degree.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the fact that that was another thing that really just made me want to see Miles go even further.
Oh yeah. Well, and honestly, the characters around him kind of accentuated, lifted him up as a character too,
Mhm.
Mhm.
because he got help besides him and his Hobie. I always think it's Toby for some reason. He like, even though they kind of have this like silent rivalry between each other, Hobie still like helps him and teaches him like tricks here and there and like stuff like that.
Yep.
And like Hobie's still like, even though it's all anarchy, he's still like is there to help people and still there to like kind
Yeah.
of like fight things off. I think,
Yes.
and honestly, the weird part of it is like all of these Spider-Men, it seems like all have a sense of genius to them. Because even though Hobie like acts like this rough anarchist, and you wouldn't think like he's got like any intellect, but no, he comes through and like he's like doing crazy smart stuff.
It's part of the core of Spider-Man. I
Spider-Man,
think
yeah.
it's like, you know, people forget about that because like Tobey Maguire's version didn't have time for it. But yeah, he's always been a very gifted scientific mind. That's part of it.
Well,
yeah.
I think the only reason Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man looked like he didn't have time is because they thought, yeah, screw it, he's got webs naturally.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that, and then he's just got a lot on his mind, and so he's struggling in classes. So
Well,
you don't really get the vibe that Toby's
No.
is a gifted scientific. I mean, he does get to work with Octavius, so that
Yeah.
but yeah.
but shifting gears, I want to talk about the inimitable Oscar Isaac and how he is phenomenal in just about every role, but especially as the role of the antagonist in this film.
Oh, Jason Schwartzman.
No,
Oscar Isaac as Miguel.
Miguel
Oh,
O'Hara,
I
also known as Spider-Man 2099.
you called Miguel the antagonist, which he does feel like
He
one.
is.
I still think
He's
the
he's
Spot
not
is
the
the
bad
The
guy.
Spot is the villain, but
Yeah.
yeah, there is some
but he is an
antagonism.
antagonist.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
He's standing in the way of the hero.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
And oh my god, I love Oscar Isaac in just about everything because of just how phenomenal an actor he is.
Mm.
Even if Poe Dameron was left with very little to do. Looking at you, Star Wars. That said, though, I really, really enjoyed the idea of Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. The closest comparison I always thought of Spider-Man 2099 is Batman Beyond. Spider-Man more tech-based in a future where
The future.
Yeah.
crap's going down. I didn't know anything about it, but the idea that this is the guy who is observing everything in the multiverse and is trying desperately to keep everything together just to know that the one thing that is getting in his way is something that Miles had no control over.
It's enough to drive you mad.
Yeah.
But at the same time is something that is possibly going to destroy the universe if he's not careful.
If we're getting into Miles, I kind of want to get into a little bit of theories about this. I know.
No theory.
Come
Come
on.
on.
No,
Come on.
this isn't a theory. The whole thing
Well, you
about
said theory, so.
But I say that because I don't know the actual word for it. Discussions is that he talked about how the whole canon universe and all that. Why is or who's watching all these other universes? Like if Spider-Man is in the hub, who's watching that Spider-Man's universe? Like, so why is Miguel not in his own universe watching his own universe?
Well, I guess his story is over, so he devotes himself to, and then I mean he's got such a big organization, but there's an infinite amount of Spider-Man.
Well, he mentions he left his own dimension
to go to the other
to go to another one, and that caused
the
that
chaos
one.
event, which I still don't understand that.
We couldn't figure that. We were talking about that in the car on the way back. Me and AJ were, and there was like what one thing.
Because the spider. If the reason why his canon event where everything went to destroy.
Our first thing.
Sense.
Our first thing is that it seems like Miguel is angry at Miles for his event, for his spider being from a different universe and that kind of shaking things up, and then him being mad at Miles for that. I mean, like it's not his fault. It
was Kingpin who brought the spider there.
Yeah, it just felt like needlessly prejudicial somehow. That was one thing.
It did feel prejudicial. I will give you that.
And the other thing was we weren't sure what we weren't sure. Maybe So what happened was okay, was it Miguel? Miguel lost his family, right?
Yeah.
And then he saw a universe where there was another Miguel who died.
And he took his place.
He replaced that Miguel, and that somehow destroyed that universe.
He disrupted a canonical event within that universe by taking the place
of
a Miguel O'Hara that's supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
If that Miguel O'Hara is dead, then how would there still be canon events to disrupt?
The idea that all the events that happened with him in that timeline were not supposed to happen at all, and he said it was fine for a little while, only for it to build up. So the idea of Miguel,
so it's not just that he continued the Spider-Man story. It was just in general
existing in a universe where he was not supposed to exist. So the idea of him going to work every day or him going to his daughter's soccer game, it built and built and built and built until boom, it caused the universe to explode. Because again, it's trying to say Miguel's not supposed to be here, so why is Miguel still here?
That makes sense. That's heavy.
But again, those were small events building up over time. Whereas in Spider-Man India, Miles Morales
just stopping that
a pivotal character moment for Spider-Man India that reshapes the entire course of who that character is as a person.
Yeah.
So one thing the movie explains is in every universe,
it has every Spider-Man really watched a police captain they know die saving a child from rubble. That seems That doesn't seem likely.
That doesn't seem likely, but that's the way they tell it. The idea of a police captain close to Spider-Man has to die, and
I'm not
Spider-Man
speaking
can't.
hypothetically. I got the
Yeah.
vibe that like every Spider-Man story that we in our universe have ever seen, I don't think that's happened in all of them,
No.
surely.
Also, there's no way in heck they saved every single person in every single building. That building went down and just completely crushed.
Yeah, but again, the way they're explaining it is that if the building goes down and every person's crushed, that's what was supposed to
But
happen.
actually, that's the whole thing that I listened to Breakthrough. That the only reason that happened was because the Spot did that. The Spot gained more power and then ended up blasting it through and destroyed it.
That's
So
true. That
that
shouldn't be
canonical
canon.
event, yeah, that canonical event shouldn't be canon because
Caused by the Spot, yeah.
caused by the Spot, who was involved with Miles's universe.
So
Well,
again,
peculiar.
Which-
you're going into this because this is the thing I hate about multiverse stories. With infinite possibilities, you also have infinite plot holes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you know,
So they're
I
never
get-
going to be one to one.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, you know, I would accept, you know, that what Miguel says about every spider about that
Yeah.
that specifically happens to every spider, and I get that. Except, I don't know. I just always had the vibe that, you know, we in our universe have seen every Spider-Man story in cartoons or
Yeah.
comics or, you know, mostly comics, but and then I just think I don't know. It's like I don't feel like something that specific really has happened in every Spider-Man story ever.
That's
You know?
because in some of them, Disney cancels it after 2 seasons. I'm not going to let the death of Spectacular Spider-Man
Sorry,
go.
Disney. Sorry, Disney.
And yes, but yes, a Spectacular Spider-Man. He does make an appearance in the
Mhm.
played again by Josh Keaton, and yeah, I didn't get that. I was like, who is this very
Yeah.
short 2D Spider-Man here? And then
No.
okay, it's Spectacular Spider-Man.
For me, Josh Keaton. First of all, Josh Keaton's an amazing voice actor. One I feel doesn't always get the credit he truly deserves sometimes. But next to him and maybe Yuri Lowenthal, I think he may be my favorite voice of Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Simply because I really think he managed to capture so many different facets of what makes Spider-Man funny and heroic, and tragic and nerdy, all those things that make him who he is.
Yeah.
And so the 2008 Spectacular Spider-Man, again, was sadly a victim of the Disney Marvel merger where the details are weird and fuzzy, but after 2 seasons, the show abruptly was canceled on a cliffhanger, even though the creators who have gone on to do a lot of different things, including Young Justice, they were planning to make it like 3 seasons and maybe a TV movie.
Yeah.
It all fell through.
And you mentioned Spectacular and Young Justice. Greg Weisman, did you know he created Gargoyles?
I did.
Yeah.
You've told me.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
Yeah, and yeah, he's making the comics. My issues keep on not arriving. I gotta buy them again.
but anyway, but in this particular instance, though, I loved the fact that we got this nod that one of my favorite Spider-Man cartoons still exists out there, at least in the case of this movie. The idea that, okay, the TV show ended, but
Yeah.
the character kept going.
Yeah.
And I like that.
I want to see 90s Spider-Man, the animated series Spider-Man, Christopher Daniel Barnes, Prince
Yeah.
Eric Spider-Man. He
But
had a multiverse story as his season finale, series finale. Yeah.
yeah. But going back to Miguel O'Hara, one of the things I really like though is while I don't agree with how he's going about it, I totally see where this character is coming from. After losing everything and having to see a universe totally wiped out in front of them, that's gonna scar you.
Oh yeah.
And so
Feeling responsible to have to watch everything.
Just
I mean,
fall
talk
apart.
about with great power comes great responsibility. You can see everything, so you have to monitor
but
everything.
you also know exactly what's at stake. The
Mhm,
idea that he
mhm.
does not want to put another Spider-Man
Oh,
exactly through what he did. So I totally get where he's coming from.
Mm.
And so that's the line that Oscar Isaac walks so well. The idea that you as an audience member don't want him to win because he's obviously going about it the
Yeah.
wrong way,
Too
but you
aggressive.
totally see why he's doing it.
Yeah.
And in some small part of your mind, it's like, if I were in his position, would I do it differently? Maybe, maybe not.
If you got pushed that far.
But that's just the sort of power that Oscar Isaac was able to really bring to that role, and I really enjoyed it. And
I think
There's
so.
that scene towards the chase between Miles Morales and Miguel O'Hara where it really felt like he was a mouthpiece for all the people who were hating on Miles Morales when he first showed up.
Oh,
I picked up on that. Yeah.
And I gotta say,
That's why I use the word prejudicial there. Yeah,
Yes.
it felt almost like you can't be Spider-Man because you're black.
You're not
it
supposed to
almost felt like
exist.
that. Yeah.
when he said you're not
Supposed
supposed
to
to
exist.
exist, it's like, oh man, I totally think I know what the intention is behind those lines.
Mhm.
But I loved that Oscar Isaac plays that so well. Again, all these actors did such an amazing job. There
Yeah,
really is not
I-
a weak link among the cast.
No.
Yeah, it's like I never saw Oscar Isaac's face. I never it
No,
just
never
it is
dawned on
so
me till right
deep,
now.
so deep in character, and that's that's the like I said, that's the mark of a good celebrity voice cast is when they really
Yes.
disappear into the role. And I think the whole cast does that. I mean,
Oh,
I didn't see any faces, you know. I mean, I suppose in the first one I saw a bit of Nicolas Cage, but you know,
Everyone sees
that'll
Nicolas
happen.
Cage.
Yeah.
well, do y'all remember the brooding Spider-Man that had like the rippling muscles and blonde hair? That
Andy
was Andy
Samberg.
Samberg.
Yeah, I did
No
not realize
idea.
that. Yeah, and I didn't. Yeah, it's like the new cast members. I didn't even know. Like I didn't know it was Sandberg. I
When
didn't
it-
know Daniel Kaluuya. I
When
didn't recognize him.
when I heard that Ben Reilly Spider-Man, I knew that I knew it had to be some comedic actor I recognized, but I couldn't place it.
Yeah.
Then when I went back and saw the cast and saw Andy Samberg, it's like, okay, that makes perfect sense. Because
Perfectly fits him
and
too.
that's just it. He was hilarious. But no, I will say I did see John Mulaney as Spider Pig.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
Spider Hand.
Spider-Ham.
Pig is the
No,
Simpsons.
I'm sorry, the Simpsons
He
ruined
wasn't. Where was
Spider-Pig.
Spider Pig?
Spider-
Where was Spider Pig?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Where was
Simpsons ruined me,
Spider
Spider-Ham.
Spider Monster, watch me fly through. I can't do Grover.
But anyway, I did see John Mulaney during the first one because
Yeah, that's
I've listened to enough of John Mulaney's stand-up where it's like I hear his speaking voice, I see him on stage with a microphone doing the whole stand-up thing.
Hey, okay, we've talked about antagonists. Let's talk about the villain, the Spot, played by Jason Schwartzman. Is just he was great. You know, he started out so comical, just so very silly, and and not just bumbling and idiotic, just legitimately funny. And over the course of the film, he evolved into just this genuine freaky menace as he appears silently near the end of the film, leading us to a cliffhanger that was terrifying. And that's all I got.
Well, even on the build-up, like right before he becomes that, like he accepts that he is going to be this ultimate power, this ultimate villain, this ultimate nemesis for Spider-Man.
One of the things I love about Jason Schwartzman as an actor is he is able to exude so much charm in all the roles he plays. Even when he's playing an antagonist, there's something about him that you just kind of love about him at the same time. And so you really got that sense of it's like this guy's hilarious because it's like, hey, can I please rob you?
You take your ATM
It's
machine.
like,
What is the stand for machine?
It's like, what do you care? You don't own the machine anyway. I'm not stealing from you. It's like, you can't help but kind of. You don't want to see him win because he's obviously the criminal, but at the same time, you want to see more of him.
Just let him take the machine.
And see, part of the reason I really like Schwartzman's performance, because I knew he was in this before I saw it, is it reminded me in a way of a less competent Gideon Graves from Scott Pilgrim versus.
I was about to talk to you about that.
Literally, the idea that this is this villain that is kind of all-encompassing, but at the same time, he just assaults you with his charm, and I love that.
He does.
I love characters like that.
And what I always love is just a very very clever and creative use of portal powers. It's like, hey, you punch into a portal and your fist comes out over here somewhere. I like that. I dig that. Yeah.
That was the whole scene of like their fight choreograph scene. Yeah, that was actually in the comics of how they portrayed him, where Spider-Man punches through his face, gets punched back. The whole scene where they the multiple scenes where the Spot actually starts whooping Spider-Man's butt a bit with those portos.
He's figuring out how to fight with it.
Yeah, with the portals, and then the end part of it a little bit spoilers because it's a beautiful scene. You hope that they both come out on top, but Spider-Man figures it out that he can tie him up through his portals with the webbing, and that's actually in the comics about that too. And I love the this is kind of Spot's what is it called, the beginning story,
Origin
story.
Yeah, first Spot. Yeah.
He
First
was the
proves up
dude.
Spot,
He was
yeah.
the scientist because it talks about in the movie.
Yeah.
That he was the dude that got hit by the bagel. In the scene where Miles and Peter are running from the lab and they have the computer, Miles has a bagel because they went through the lunch area. The scientist opens up the door with like a science gun, and Miles chucks the bagel, chops the bagel on the scientist.
So he's what happens when you put everything on a bagel.
Everything is a bagel. I had to see that.
Bagel.
Yeah, but like I said though, I really just appreciated exactly what this film was going for.
Oh my gosh.
It was animated beautifully. The story was great. Again, there were a few moments where some of the stylization was a little bit distracting, but it felt so grounded in the idea that every single one of these characters, you knew who they are, you knew what they wanted, and you didn't always agree with them,
But they had to figure it out too.
but you always knew where they were coming from. I have to say the biggest disappointment I have is the fact that the film is building to such an interesting climax. It's going to something a lot of people knew was just waiting to happen. And then the movie ends.
Yeah, it really does. It just literally just drops you. Literally. Not even like a cliffhanger. It feels like you're dangling, and then they just like let you go, and you're like, "What's going on?"
That's what happens in the second film of a trilogy. They know there's going to be another one.
I get it, but at the same time,
not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying that's what happens.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying I get where you're coming from a writing standpoint, but at the same time, now they have to fill 2 hours of
2.5 hours.
what feels like climax for this next movie, and it's one of those things where it's like, how do you do that without making things drag out unnecessarily? You know, I'm sure they'll find a way, but I am kind of concerned about that.
Just jump into the deep end.
So I don't know,
Right off the get-go.
but I'm not going to split too many hairs because, like you said, we got more story coming. So even though I didn't like the fact that it just cut me off right when I needed another bit hard, I am completely on board for whatever happens going forward because they've already sold me with just everything they've managed to accomplish so far, that I know they're gonna find a way to
continue on.
And you know what? I'm gonna say it. I think this may be my favorite movie of the year so far.
Yeah,
not surprised if it is factually the best. I would imagine.
I have a bit of a complaint at the very beginning of the movie, right when all the intro stuff ends. I know it's Marvel's thing is to be big and flashy coming in. As a person who has seizures, there was no warning. And it was felt way too. I literally had to like close my eyes through the whole beginning.
The logos. Yeah, the logos, the Sony and Columbia and Marvel logos. It's like every frame they were flashing to that logo from another universe. Every frame, and it's like
it looks cool.
So hey, you talked about this maybe being the Susan Sarandon show. This is the epilepsy show.
But
trying to give Japan runs for its money.
If I had to give my final thoughts on this,
oh my god,
no, I think they're waiting for the Detective Pikachu sequel.
That one. So before we're doing final thoughts and letter grade, because I just jotted down 3 things I wanted to mention before we hit up final thoughts. Letter grade.
Yeah, we can do that.
So first thing, I mean, I'd say we've been deep into spoiler territory. So where are cliffhanger ends for Miles? Is it he gets into Miguel's machine, which, scans you and sends you back to your universe.
The go home machine.
Which is a giant spider.
Did they call it that?
That-
Yeah, the go home machine. That's right. Yeah.
Giant alien-looking white spider.
So he gets in the go home machine and and it takes him a very long time, some time talking to his mother and realizing things seem off to realize he's not in his universe. He's on Earth 42, the point of origin of the spider that bit him because it altered his DNA. And for myself, there was no tension in that because I clearly saw the go home machine say Earth 42.
Well,
and like I guess, and so I'm not sure what the intent was there. I mean, I know most audiences don't really have the head for numbers, and then the Earth 42 won't mean anything to them. They did establish Earth 42 was where the spider came from, not where Miles comes from.
tension for me in the sense that I knew he was on the wrong Earth. But how bad were things on this Earth?
Yeah.
And
They're pretty honking bad, as it turns out. Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, it was one of those things where it's like, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop because I already know he's in the wrong place. How is it going to get worse? Because I know it will. How is it going to get worse? And I got to admit, I did not see that coming when it was finally revealed.
Miles G. Morales. We'll learn more about him later. Yeah.
Pretty much when they talked about his hair, saying what happened to your hair,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's another Miles. There's another Miles.
That's very true. Yeah.
Yes.
And then afterwards,
And then of course, Uncle Aaron shows up, who's already that's enough, and then he said, "You took out your braids." So I was like, "Oh, braids." Huh?
I felt like taking them out.
Yes, but like I said, again, I'm with you. I saw that they were on the wrong Earth, but again, it's one of those things where it's like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. He's not home. So how is home going to be bad?
Yeah. Well, and how they portray it too, because during that scene, Miguel and a few other Spider-Men are like staking
Chasing him down.
chasing him out, but also staking out his place.
Yeah,
so there's a bunch of
yeah
scenes back and forth of Miles coming back home and then them staking out his house.
Staking out his house, and then it's one of those things. Yeah, it's just one of those things where you don't realize that. Yeah, it looks like the characters are converging on the same place, but they ain't. Yeah,
there's a twist.
Yep, but
What's a twist?
like I said, even though
is that yours?
No, it's yours.
Okay, I thought I finished mine.
Nope,
Sweet.
I finished mine. That's good, dude. That's good.
yeah, again, one of those things that makes suspense so great in a movie is the idea that the audience is clued into information that the character isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why that
dramatic
works.
irony.
I think that's why it works so well for me. Because like you said, you knew he was on the wrong Earth. I knew he was on the wrong Earth.
I did.
But getting to see him on an Earth where an alternate version of Miles is the bad guy.
Well, especially the
Prowler.
To see if that spider hadn't bit him, the path he would have possibly gone down.
Yeah.
That is the thing that I feel made for such an effective twist. Even if the audience had that information, you didn't fully know that that is exactly where it was going to go.
So,
because when I saw Uncle Aaron, I thought Aaron was going to be the Prowler.
Yeah, Miles is the Prowler. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, especially when you see Aaron like messing with the glove and he puts it on.
Yeah. And he's put on the glove, and then he says, "I'm not the Prowler."
It's a very effective misdirect. Also, I love the fact that they got Mahershala Ali back. I love Mahershala Ali in almost anything.
Pretty good, especially how they made this Uncle Aaron look. Because in the old one, he obviously looks younger, but this one, he's got this distinguished black gray goatee.
It's been
it's popping out.
Life's been harder on Earth 42 since the spider that was supposed to make Spider-Man ended up going someplace else. Yeah.
Which that's a big moment because it's one of the biggest what ifs.
Yep.
And if it did what happened, would we be getting the same story like we just did with this Miles?
Well,
or
again,
different story?
I imagine in this case, this would be the events of the first movie of the Spider never bit Miles Morales. He would have kept hanging around with his uncle and would have fallen to a life of crime.
And would have become the Prowler because crime was crime was becoming more of a necessity in that world.
Yeah,
It looks like things were that world seemed to be kind of on fire.
Yeah, wasn't there a clip of when Miles merged with the spot that he's seen that the spider was sitting next to the other Miles, like ready to like bite him or something, and then that one just disappeared?
I don't remember.
I think there's a scene of like that.
Huh.
If it was so
'Cause-
quick. I don't.
Oh
remember
no,
it.
well, it was during the melding of like when Spot and Miles melded together, because it showed like the future that was going to happen to Miles between, and then that was during the time of right before.
No,
they say
I
the
know
blue
I know they flashed a whole bunch of things, but
Yeah.
what you're talking about, it's possible it was in there. I'm just saying I don't remember it.
Yeah.
It never occurred. Oh my god, it never occurred to me that Miles G. Morales was supposed to be Spider-Man. There, I had a. Yeah, I mean, I know. I guess the way Miguel talks about how Miles wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man, that gave me the vibe that Spider was going for a Peter Parker in Earth 42. But no, I mean, hey, there are other Mileses, as we know from video games and stuff. So
well, Gwen Stacy ended up becoming Spider-Woman.
Like Spider-Gwen and
Spider-Man
yeah.
never existed.
yes, but Peter Parker
So
was
there
never
are plenty of
Spider-Man.
scenarios where the spider does not bite Peter.
I guess, yeah, that's true. And just brief talking about Aaron Davis / the Prowler. Donald Glover appears in this film as a version of the Prowler from a live action universe,
It's supposed
having
to be-
previously played the role in Homecoming. Yeah.
It was one of those cameos that I thought was actually really funny.
I mean, that was funny as it.
Too.
I mean, there's just you don't expect to see any live action in these, but
let
we do,
alone him.
yeah.
It was really good though. I also loved all the Nick, what was it, Mysterio, and then Mysterio, all the different variations of all the different Spider-Man villains that they collected throughout the thing. There was
Mysterio, yeah.
and then there was like then you seen the you were talking about the Insomniac Spider-Man. He was there.
He was there, yeah.
Collected as a
Yuri
canon
Lowenthal,
event.
yeah.
And so it was pretty fun. It was a pretty funny movie. I loved the movie.
I still like that. Why does your horse have a mask? So no one knows who he is.
That's what's that? His name?
Web
Slinger. I was gonna say, I knew it was some gunslinger joke. Of course, Web Slinger. That's good. Yeah, that's a good name for a cowboy Spider-Man. Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because the one breakdown or I watched of like all the different Spider-Man. It's like literally talks about all the different variations. Well, there's actually one where Flash Thompson becomes Spider-Man, and that's like.
And I think he was in there too.
Yeah, he was in there because he had actually tried to attack him. All the different Mark suits of Spider-Man were in there. The one suit that wasn't there and they didn't talk about was the black suited symbiote Spider-Man. I wonder just because
there were
Venom.
There were a few black suit Spider-Man in there,
but not the symbiote one though.
Well, we don't know if that was the symbiote one or not. One of them could have been.
That is true.
The word symbiote was originally pronounced symbiote, but after it started being applied to Venom in Spider-Man comics, a whole generation of people who didn't know how to pronounce it changed the pronunciation to symbiote. They wanted to pronounce it symbiote in the Venom movies, but people got mad.
We stupid.
Much like how Daffy Duck changed the pronunciation of the word despicable to despicable.
Yeah, true.
What do you know? Pop culture ruins everything.
Yep. Okay. My second note. Early in the film, Miguel references the events of No Way Home, saying that there's been a bit of multiversal trouble thanks to the Doctor Strange and Spider-Man of Earth 199999. And I was glad to hear the words Earth 199999 because that is everything that's ever been made based on Marvel Comics has a designated universe designation. and the Marvel Cinematic Universe has always been Earth 199999. And in the MCU itself, in phases 4, 5, and 6, the multiverse saga, they've been calling it Earth 616. And that's a nice shout out and all, but it's not true. Earth 616 is the core original Marvel Comics universe. And even the star of Miss Marvel is like, no, that's not right. It's not Earth 616. And so, yeah, it was just nice to hear the proper designation. And my third bullet point is just my one issue with Hobie is that he's always surrounded by that strange magazine cutout art style. It's part of his silhouette all the time, and just again trying stuff. Don't like that.
I think to be succinct.
Yeah, there were moments where that did kind of clash with what was going on, but
I mean, I'm mostly kidding.
Yeah.
It was a very cool
It was still
effect,
cool.
but I mean, I just
A little much.
I don't think it should have been on him all the time.
well, it only would have been distracting if he was like the main character of the movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it was a bit distracting when we had the Da Vinci bird vulture come in.
Yeah.
He was kind of the same style, and like he was everywhere, especially when like he launched weapons. You had like the little flying birds that would fly through the screen, and it kind of like screw up with all the surrounding
And the
effects of
paper-
everything.
The paper scroll.
Squirrels, yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's just I don't know. It's just they kind of. I know. It's just the first film kind of indicated is that when you come to another universe, you take on the new universe's
As it.
art style, right? Because you had Penny and Spider-Ham were both 3D when they came to Miles's universe, and then when you see them back at their own universe, they are 2D. And it seems like everyone in Miguel's world in that hub, they're in their original art style, and then so yeah, I don't understand why Hobie is always in his, and why that Renaissance universe Vulture is always in his as well.
I
Why
mean,
is it
wasn't
8%
Spider-Man Noir always in grayscale? Even
Oh, yeah.
in Miles's-
Yeah, see, yeah.
So,
His
I
cape
mean,
was
he
always
didn't,
on,
he didn't
too.
fully assimilate either.
I mean that was an implication. It's just that's just he's just from a place where there is no color. He doesn't understand color, so that's
So
I love
I
that
mean,
he has
the
different
idea
pursuits.
that he assimilates to whatever universe, wouldn't he have had color then?
Sure. Or
how
technically
could
he
you
did.
tell? He wears an entirely black suit with white eyes.
White,
How could you
yeah.
tell?
Technically he did, because black, white, and gray is the color.
Yeah.
That would be his universes of color.
Yeah, but I mean, he seemed unaffected by any kind of
Yeah.
light, though.
And then you could also scale that to the back to the paper people of why are they 3D and they should just be completely 2D where they're paper thin.
It's okay. Yeah, we're thinking too
We're
hard about
splitting
this.
Yeah.
It just seems a little inconsistent to me because I don't know it's like I said, Penny and Spider-Ham. You see Spider-Ham is much more CGI
Yeah.
in Miles's world, and when we see Penny in this film, she's much more 2D than she was
Yeah.
in the original.
Which I love her new mech suit. I like the old mech suit, but I like this one. Very Pacific Rim style looking. I always loved that movie.
I like that movie too. It's one of my big inspirations, the Pacific Rim. All right, yeah, let's do final thoughts. And yeah, same order as ever.
Okay. Well, as I've said, I would say so far, this is probably my favorite film of the year so far, on an objective basis. Phenomenal voice acting, very, very compelling story. It really just is one of those films that I highly recommend you see in theaters. It is a visual spectacle.
Oh.
The seizure warning aside, honestly.
Move back so much.
There were so many moments that I honestly have such a hard time listing them, but some of my favorites include the initial spot fight, because not only was that a feast for all kinds of visual shenanigans, it was funny at the same time. It was so funny to watch the idea of essentially what I wish Portal, the video game, could do with the sequel in this day and age. It again, and like you said, Portal fights are so much fun in terms of all the weird things you can do with them. I really appreciated what they did to expand the character of Miles and Gwen without getting so up their ass with the love story, because sometimes that can really get distracting, especially when the plot is kicking into high gear and the stakes are high. Again, Miguel O'Hara is a great antagonist in terms of trying to keep the multiverse from unraveling, but going about it in a way that's just impossible to justify. I honestly have to say that this movie is, I won't say it's perfect because it's not, but it's really close for me for being one of the best comic book films I've ever seen. I would give this film an A-. It only loses points for me because the ending left me wanting so much more. I know we're getting more, but I just didn't want him to stop. So A- from me.
My last point of view on it, or bringing every tie-in, he took a few of them, which I have to agree with. The Spot character, I love Spot as a villain. He's a recent villain that I just learned about a few weeks back, maybe a month back. He's always kind of came back into different dimensions, and that's kind of like his special ability. So I love that he's kind of one of them characters, almost like Deadpool, where he can almost fourth wall break. And so I love that. I love the tune force of also this movie that we fully didn't talk about, because like the Da Vinci, he uses the tune hammer where he can like pull out a hammer from any space or hammer space and then rebuild his wing. There's just kind of the extra tune force. Oh, what was the other one that I had and I lost it? It was another point of tune force. And I forgot it. Bugger. But it might come back. Just with all that, and I just love seeing all the different like Spider-Man, the Spider people. Because it's technically there's all different sorts. There's the Spider T-Rex, which is my favorite one. Especially when he uses his thwip sound starts with a T, so it's to whip.
That's what Miles thinks he's seen everything.
Exactly. A giant spider T-Rex. And so the whole movie for me was like a bit like nostalgia, like I said, and just made me really feel at home. Really, just I smiled through the whole thing. I thought I was gonna cry, I didn't, which was surprising. Maybe because we haven't got to the end yet, like you said, it's really building up to that end. Hopefully it doesn't build it up too much, because I have that downside where I was like, oh, it's building this so much that hopefully it doesn't like go crazy and then just tip over the wrong direction, and then if everything goes to heck. My rating.
Yeah, two good ones. I was really hoping we get a third one that doesn't ruin the whole thing. That can happen, but I know they're so good. I doubt it.
I give them the benefit of the doubt. Until it's made, it can't be bad.
So I'd have to, for my rating, I have a scale of the letter scales. I would have to probably give it a solid A. Just a good old A. Good A for Aaron too.
Yeah, absolutely transcendent. And I have the benefit of just kind of having of kind of seeing this film and the first one as kind of one work, because I saw the first one only earlier that same week. It's like I hadn't been avoiding it or anything. I just kind of missed it, and things happen. Things happen. It's you know it's like, these things happen. I don't know. After my grandma died, I just kind of stopped seeing all the movies. We used to see every movie that was out together, and so it's been a few years since I was seeing movies regularly, and now I got these guys. Yeah. But yeah. Sorry. As for talking about the movie, yeah, absolutely transcended, just with its storytelling and its. I don't know. I love what. I love what we're seeing from multiverses in movies. It's great. I wish their stories had time to show us more universes. That's kind of thing. It'd be so hard to balance that. It's like you get enough universes to really see what it's all about. You never do, because if you did, that would so interrupt the story. But regardless, yeah, and no, it's like I don't like the way it looks, but I can really appreciate just the very experimental way they use the medium of film by just bringing in things from comic books. Yeah, just bringing in comic book visual devices, and especially from older comic books, those that very much predate Miles Morales as a character. And what I do like is characters from different art styles all coming together and doing stuff together. I do appreciate that. And besides which, that would all fall apart if there wasn't a good story. And Lord and Miller have I don't know. I mean, given their other works, I'm very surprised that they wrote this, because it's very sincere, and such good layered characters. And yeah, and I don't know. I gave Speed Racer an A-. That's gonna throw me off forever. But no, I get it. So yeah, But yeah, I mean, just I don't know, just for the fact that it didn't totally blow me away, I'm giving it solid A. Solid A. So I'm with this guy, and you said A minus. Yeah. So hey, hey, yeah.
Again, I'm
So,
the grub.
yeah, our batting average has gone up a little there. Yeah.
Now that said, I am going to make one prediction. I believe this movie is going to win the Oscar for Best Animated Feature Film.
Yeah, who cares?
I'm only calling it just because I would love it to see if I'm right, and it'll be hilarious if I'm exceedingly wrong.
That's it. Either way, let's see what happens.
So let's see what happens in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Am I calling it or am I an idiot? We'll find out.
Who's to say?
But I will say we've seen several animated films this year, and I think so far, not only do I think this is the strongest one, I think this probably will remain the strongest one throughout the year. I would love to be wrong about that, only because I feel when we have great films in general, animated or otherwise, everybody wins, but I think so far this is probably the best one.
Pixar always wins that award. Elemental, nobody liked Elemental, but it'll be the only animated film the Academy members saw.
Spider-Verse won the Oscar.
Okay.
So,
There we go then. Maybe for So
it's not
moment.
impossible.
Bring 2D back also.
Yeah, save 2D animation. Somebody, that's
Please.
Hey, that's what we're doing. I mean, hey, what I said about not liking animation, trying stuff. If you've seen the teaser for Irregular Fantasy, people have commented it's very 90s, and yeah, that's my aesthetic, very 90s.
Like that, Black 90s.
Yes.
All good. Any last thoughts or not?
Yeah, I want to talk about what we're doing for our next two episodes. I want to give just a teeny bit of backstory, which I will delve into much harder when we actually do it next week. The very first time we got together to watch something, we watched Star Kids' Holy Musical Batman. That reminded Mason of Cannibal the Musical, so that was our next one. And Cannibal reminded me of another Star Kids show, The Trail to Oregon. So that is what we'll be watching this week and talking about next week. The Trail to Oregon. And after that, we're now our rotation of monthly movie nights, we're still doing that just monthly. But we are going to do this show weekly, and so we'll be doing some other stuff we've thought about, some stuff that's out right now. So week after next, we'll be doing Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. And sometime next month, we will be revisiting Holy Musical Batman and Cannibal because, they were our, they were what we started this with, and they deserve to be content too. So we'll be watching them again. And I hope we got stuff to talk about. And and I hope just the mix of up and down titles, just the really fun current stuff, and then the very obscure down there, and then you get Speed Racer somewhere in the middle. I hope,
I hope that it's just right.
I hope the titles, I hope we've got a variety of stuff to talk about, and even it's just we are just three white guys on a couch talking about movies. That's like. Okay, and that hit me today, and I got really depressed. And I know it's not much to look at, but we're here. I'm hoping,
we're beautiful. Look at us.
Hoping
gorgeous.
I'm hoping we have fun with it.
Like, share, and subscribe if you want us to get more followers, and possibly, maybe we can afford that elective surgery to make us more attractive.
I don't know. It's gonna be expensive for me.
See y'all later. To support TAPAS and learn more, visit our link tree. TAPAS and Stuff Productions is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon, including Knight Sadie Allen.